Good morning. Can you put your headphones on and let me know, raise your hand if you can hear? Beautiful. Hi, I am Stephanie Rutter. I'm a business auditor at FINRA. I have a question for everyone. How many of you are auditors? Wow, that's a lot. Is anybody a project manager? Okay. So, what we do is audits, and so we look at everything from a project viewpoint. Hopefully, those of you who don't work from a project viewpoint can translate what we're doing for your purposes.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? My name is Parmanan Jagade. Imagine trying to pronounce that name, so I go by the name Sat, right? I'm the Audit Technology Director for FINRA Internal Audit. And so, did everybody have fun last night? Good. All right. So, what I'm going to do is kind of give you a little about the agenda today. So, just kind of imagine, data. We got a lot of data now, and instead of the auditors come into the data guy and says, you need to run all these queries, you need to do all of this, what we have done is take Tableau and give it to the auditor, and I just put the data in. So the things I'm going to show you is how we're using visualization for summary, how we're using dashboards to do target sampling, how we're using visualization to do processes, and how to identify outliers. So those are the four main things we're going to try to point out today. So the main thing is, I think you've heard this whole week, is know your data. If you know your data, the visualization will come out for you. So as we go, I'll give you a little background about FINRA, if you've never heard about FINRA. We are one of the largest regulators for the stock market. We regulate 90% of the equities and option trades. And we regulate all the brokerage firms in the United States. Stephanie, why don't you get a little more about FINRA?
So, FINRA gets a lot of data every day. Stock markets and options markets are very busy. We get over 1 terabyte of data every day. To get a little context for that, the credit card processors, Visa and MasterCard, they're busy as well. We get more data every day than they do. Our regulatory responsibilities are increasing with some new regulations, and so our data intake is expected to increase exponentially over the next couple of years. That means audit's responsibilities also increase. We need to be able to do more with the same amount of resources or even less, probably similar to many of you. One of the ways we want to do that is by visualizations. Do you use visualizations and analytics in planning? Show of hands? Yes? Excellent. So we use analytics and visualizations in planning, in fieldwork, reporting. We use them for audits, we use them in investigations, we use them in consultations. We use them wherever we can because it's more effective to get people up to date on what's going on in a business area, to get people who haven't worked with a business area familiar and understanding business process very quickly. It's also very effective to communicate results to whatever business area we're working with. Here we're going to focus on some of the planning analytics we've developed. We've spent a lot of time building what we call templates, and it's a group of visualizations that we use as a starting point. We do more visualizations throughout the audits, but having a base where we can say, hey, Sat, give me the template for this audit. He can put it together in a couple of hours versus doing them in the way we used to in one-off queries. Hey, I want to look at this piece, want to look at this, can we pull data on that? And doing it manually through Excel and other tools. Here, it's a batch of about 20 or so. We get everything at once, and we can go back and forth with the visualizations and focus wherever we need to. And let the visualizations talk to us and help us understand the risks and how the risks have changed. Sat, you think we're ready to start looking?
Let's go.
So, FINRA has offices all across the United States. Does anybody find a problem with this map in the United States? This is a map of South America. We had to cleanse our data for this presentation. FINRA actually, our data is considered very confidential. We don't share outside. So we renamed all of our districts to South American countries. It's just a little bit odd, and I have to look at the map in order to know what I'm talking about because it's not as familiar. So I want you to look at two countries that are the same size, just for the conversation purposes here. Up at the top are Colombia and Venezuela. They're about the same geographically, and Sat has them highlighted for us, so I don't have to tell you which ones they are. But their numbers are very different. Here, these are numbers of exams in fraud and detection. Our exam teams go out, they do risk analyses, and this is one of the areas they look at. Well, exams in these areas, there's same geographic area. Would you expect the same number of exams in fraud and detection in those same, in areas that are the same size? Maybe, maybe not. For FINRA, it really depends on what the firms are that are assigned to those districts. They can be very, very different, and it just depends on what that specific makeup is. So it really goes back to the first point of know your data. So it's just a really good way of getting familiar at a summary level, and you can compare and contrast in lots of different ways and at a variety of detail levels. Do you want to?
The next one will be the dashboard. As we said, there's a dashboard, and I'll just kind of start it and I'll have Stephanie go up. One of the things about dashboard that I like is on the top, you have a summarization. And you could drill down. On the left, you get into some detail, but then on the bottom right here, you actually got to your detail. So this is where you could do your targeted samples. So, I mean, as you could see here, if you would just want to look at the filtering capability too. So we're just going to do this very quickly. We're just going to do 2018. And so we got our 2018 exams. And what you're seeing here is all the risks that were covered for 2018 across the country, and what percentage of it were covered. So let's kind of go through fraud and deception. And Stephanie, why don't you just kind of go a little more about the fraud and deception?
So when you take a look at one in specific, you can go into the count of the matters by risk on the bottom left, and you can see exactly which districts have looked at it, and the variation between the open and closed matters, how they've gone, and you can look at the numbers as well as the percentage. We like having both number and percentage because raw numbers can tell you one thing, but percentage tells you a very different story. The other piece that's really interesting is when you're looking at the details is this piece over here on the bottom right. When you look at the matters, we keep talking about matters. In FINRA, a matter is an investigation, an exam, a case, however you want to call a specific item. Here, it's nice because it can tell you all of the detail risks within that risk group. It can tell you the districts, and it can tell you the results. Sat, you want to pick a different one so we can get some finding
Sure.
results?
So we could just see if we get something here. And that one has a
recommendation.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, so you can see a little bit better there, and you can see the status on them. It's very helpful when you're picking samples to get more and more detail, and it's very helpful to see a bigger picture and the detailed picture at the same time.
As you could see, as we're saying, filtering allows us to drill down to exactly what we want to look at. So what I have done is build these dashboards so the auditors work with me on what filters they want. They're able to quickly get down to where they want, right? And again, you could, if you just want open, you just go. I'm not going to get into the technical. I think whole week, that's all you guys hear, how to create charts. So we're just trying to show you how we're using it. So the next one, as we were saying, we create templates for audit. And every time we restart the audit or do an audit again, we revisit the visualizations to see if we want to change anything or make new ones. The next chart will show you how we're working on it. It's still a work in progress. We'll show you how we kind of use a different way to audit processes.
So this one actually started from a question that became a consultation, and we're working through taking a look at the full time in the life of a matter versus how much time is it spending in that regulatory piece where we're doing the investigation, the analysis, vetting issues, and then what does it take in the reporting? The reporting piece is the going back and forth with the firms, working through kind of that resolution piece. In some cases, it's an actual litigation process. One of the really interesting things that SAT put on here is a very cool filter that, SAT, you want to flip to that filter for me?
So up here at the top, what Stephanie is saying is we have two departments here. We got reporting department and regulatory department. So just kind of explain a little more. The regulatory department will review the examination or the matter, and then depend on their findings, they'll refer it to the reporting department. Well, usually the reporting department shouldn't take a long time to review these matters. So what we wanted to show was how often they're doing that or not. So what I've done is created a flag at the top here and made it into a filter. So right now this is everything. And so if we just want to see where the reporting department is taking longer than the regulatory department, all you have to do is press 1 and hit enter. And the bar and bar chart kind of gives you a perspective of what's going on.
So the reporting department is the yellow bar on top of the blue bar. The blue bar is the regulatory department. The purple on the left side of this butterfly chart is the full life of the matter. So you can just get a kind of a scope altogether.
So one of the things about this chart too is it looks summarization, but I've built drill down in it. So what you could do is, okay, these are the main departments, right? So now what we could do is just do this, and now we get down to the districts. So you're able to see how each district is doing. At the same time, which I think you've been seeing in the previous charts, we have these tooltips. So like District 4 here has over 1,000 matters. And the average regulatory department is 25 days. The average for reporting is 105. For me, we might want to look at that. But then you can even drill down one more. Now, we're actually to the matter. And by getting to the matter, one of the things I liked about Tableau too is you can actually click on the matter, which we can't do here because I didn't get into the internet and kind of it will be slow. Is you can click on the matter and it will open it in our case management tool so the auditor can look at that information right away. So you don't have to, kind of let me go copy this and put it over here. I set it up so that they can quickly get to the matter and they can see what caused it.
Now, I do want to point out, depending on the district and the type of matters that they're handling and referring, that reporting period may be very, very lengthy compared to the investigation period. There are some types of matters where it's a very quick vetting of, yes, it's valid, and it goes straight to reporting, and reporting does the bulk of the work. There's other ones where the bulk of the work is in the regulatory department, and it's 90% of the time there and 10% of the time in reporting. So it just depends on exactly what you're looking at. So here again, knowing your data is key, because otherwise you might think that everywhere where the reporting is longer is a problem. Majority of them, they're perfectly normal, just the standard process and the way it's supposed to work.
I was going to add one more thing on this chart. I mean, as Stephanie had said, this is a butterfly chart. There are two things in here. You got bar and bar, and you got butterfly. And the reason I like this chart too is imagine if you had to create a reporting bar, a regulatory bar, and an overall age bar. So you've got all these bars, and so your screen will be filled up very quickly. With this, you're able to kind of get more information and not having to scroll a lot, right? And as I said before, you just kind of keep going up. So the next one we're going to show you is a scatter plot. And Stephanie, why don't you kind of talk a little more about the scatter plot as we go?
So we use scatter plots quite a bit, and the one we're showing you is a pretty typical one for us. We've plotted the age in hours on the going up the left. Going across the bottom is the age in number of days. So you're going to see kind of a nice gentle slope for the most part, and then you see kind of a smattering of oddball ones around the rest. You also see these vertical gray lines. They're not as clear here other than the one on the left. So that vertical gray line is a very clear piece of the process. For FINRA, regularly scheduled exams are open all at one time. So that's part of the opening process in planning for the coming year. This data was captured early in 2018. So this was those were all opened in 2017, planning for the 2018 year. So let me give you a little bit of frame of reference on here, because you probably can't read the details at the bottom. So the squares are open matters, X's are closed matters. Then we have the coloring. So the gray are examinations where we did not find any problems to address with the firms. The pink are matters, examinations, where we took a sanction against the firm. They're either fined, they have to, they've got a letter where they have to address an issue, but there's some kind of a sanction that they have to address. So let's talk about outliers. So first thing is standard deviation. The blue bars and the yellow bars are two standard deviations. So anything above the blue or outside of the yellow are outliers for both. And, individually, they're also outliers. Sat, you want to pick one? We can talk a little bit about it. So the one at the top is a little over 3 years old and has over 5,000 hours charged to it. That one is sent to me is one where we found a significant problem and threw a lot of resources at it as we were finding the problem so that we could address it as we were finding it. I'm going to guess it had multiple firms involved, but since that cleansed the data, I couldn't look it up. So, let's see. Sat, you want to move on to some filtering?
Well, let me kind of show. I mean, from a scatter plot standpoint, you could see it's telling you a lot, right? You can get a lot of information without having to go anywhere, right? So it allows the auditors to see a lot of information and kind of display and kind of read what they want to read out of it and kind of go. But as Stephanie was saying, I want you to pay attention to this corner right here where it says filters, because it's very important, because as auditors, and there were a lot of auditors in the room, we need documentation. Everything we do, we have to document how we got to it and what we do. One of the things I liked about Tableau was, if you want to filter, as you filter, you will see what happens. So we're going to go to change the status to just open. what's going to happen is up here, you see, now it says open. So if you're documenting your work or you draw a conclusion on your data, you can take a screenshot, put it in your work papers, and now you're done. So you never have questions about what we did, right? So it allows the auditors to kind of do that very easily. So one of the things too I want to point out is that I'm gonna show you what we do and how we get to the sample, how we can get samples out of here very easily. So as you see the bars, you got bars going in there. We are going to do some more filtering and get straight to, and that's how many open matters there are. Now, one of the good things what I've done is create a sheet that filters at the same time with the scatter plot. So if you look over here, and I'll go back, I'll do this so that you can see it. If you go over here, you've got a lot of data. So we'll go back to this, and we're going to just pick District 2 again. And we shouldn't have a whole lot of data. Now what happens is, see, just this is all you have. If I can find my mouse, right here. And all you do is you export this, and I'll do it so you guys could see that. So all I'm gonna do, and after a few seconds, it should open Excel with that data all set up, so the auditors can then just take that and go with it.
That's also very handy when you're presenting using the visualization to present findings, and your business client says, can you give me the details? Yeah, I can just drop it into an Excel sheet for you.
Right, so there it is, as you see. So now we click on it, and all the data that is in that chart on the filtered data set is right here. And you can just scroll across, and so now the auditors are able to get to their information. So again, as you could see, as you clear the filters on the right side here, everything goes away. And so it allows the auditor to document the work. So it allows them to come back to it 2 years from now and say, what did we do? They're able to.
So as you can see, Sat and I work together quite a bit. We have spent a lot of time building templates. Sat works very closely with all of the audit team working to build these templates, and it has to be a collaboration. The auditors have to know the data as well as Sat and his team. If it's not a joint effort, you're not going to have a good product. And you're not going to have data that really speaks to you. The visualizations have to be able to drive your understanding.
Summary.
Pick up.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so as we said before, I mean, you need to know your data. Okay, that's one of the first things is, as you say, anywhere you need to know your data and understand what you're trying to do. Because if you don't, you heard the phrase before, junk in, junk out. So if you don't know what you're trying to do, it's not going to help you.
So we use the templates to put the power of the visualizations into the auditor's hands. So moving from full service to self-service. And we end up with a much more powerful, much more effective, more efficient team. So,
I mean, pretty much that's it, guys. I mean, you know, but as you could see, we basically took the data and visualized it and allowed give the auditor more control. So the auditor have control. They know what they want to look at. They know the policies and procedures. Now they're able to look at the data and say, let me see if it'll help me identify any problems, any anomalies, any issues.
So,
okay.
Any questions?
Any questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.